name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into TechPath. Let's get started today. I do want to thank our sponsor, Coinbase. Coinbase is a great place for you guys to begin your crypto journey. And I think a lot of people now are starting to enter crypto. And the cool thing is if you go over and visit Coinbase.com, you can of course get $50 when you actually buy $50 in crypto. So all you have to use is our link down below. It's going to get you started, get you going, and you can buy your Bitcoin over there, your Avalanche over there, Ethereum, pretty much almost any token you want is available out there. Check out Coinbase. If you guys remember, we did a big video a couple weeks ago on this news right here, and this was Warren Buffett, one of the biggest bankers out there, choosing AVAX. And of course, this is around the Japanese ecosystem utilizing Avalanche for their stablecoins. So this is, I think, one of the key factors that we've started to see a little bit of movement on the Avalanche token. When you look at the charts right now, Avalanche also up almost 40. If you go off to that dip on the wick, was trading at around $14, trading now at about 20. This is where we're starting to see a little bit of action on AVAX. And could this be a good sign? Because there is a lot of interesting news starting to brew for Avalanche. If you guys will remember, JP rolled out a programmable payment via the JPM Coin. This goes all the way back to, what was this, 23? Yeah, that was in November of 2023. Now, if you remember, that was part of the Onyx program, kind of the history of the timeline of where they were going and what was happening. The key thing here, when you look at the use case of JP they've been utilizing blockchains really since about 2015. The key here now is it's called Kinexys, and this is something where AvaCloud is now selected to participate in this around this new partnership. And this, I think, is going to be a big point of success, because as we start to see our RWAs evolve, and they're going to evolve quickly, this, I think, will be one of the next big steps. JP also launches blockchain-based Kinexys. This is digital payments in GBP, of course, the pound in the UK. Just here recently, so this is all good news. Further into that, if you look at the privacy solutions, this is one of the key things that Avalanche has over many others, is the privacy component. And this is one of the things that JP had to have in place to make it happen. If you notice there, together combined with distributed identity, DID, Avalanche warp messaging, they ensure a confidentiality without sacrificing the functionality of private and secure blockchain-based assets. If you take a look further into their report here, this gets a little bit into actually how it's being used. And I'll zoom in on this. You can kind of see the smart contract auction, layer ones, etc., being utilized. Right here's the main L1. This is the point behind this. And again, this gets into RWA integration and adoption. That is one of the key things that will drive a lot of this use case into the next layer. Now, many people will remember a couple of things that have happened over the last few months. This was a clip that was at the Converge event, and they were talking about the whole idea around institutional and adoption. Take a look.
Maybe like a hot take from my side is that I think any application or business that reaches true product market fit in the space will want and necessitate its own chain.
So just curious, who here in the audience thinks the world needs more blockchains? All right, there's 3 people.
I don't mean entire blockchain networks, right? They can be Avalanche L1s, they can be Cosmos chains.
We were slacking about this yesterday, actually.
It's a private conversation.
At JP Jamie Dimon, he gets up on stage and he does not speak positively about this space. And so I think when you get Jamie Dimon up here saying how much he loves blockchain, how much he loves crypto, that's the tipping point.
All right, well, we may have that tipping point because actually, if you recall, there has been an issue where really, Dimon was kind of on record. This was a clip from 60 Minutes, and this is the clip versus the raw edit of that, what was actually said. Listen in.
You've said that it's as useless as a pet rock. What do you really think?
Bitcoin itself has no intrinsic value. So I just don't feel great about Bitcoin. I think you have the right to smoke, but I don't think you should smoke. Yeah, blockchain itself will work, and that's kind of crypto. Mm-hmm. Right? Crypto contracts, you can go somewhere and see what this building is. You can buy 0.1% of a building with all the detail and all the data in a permissioned area. Yeah, it'll have uses.
All right, so that was in the same interview there on 60 Minutes, and that's the point, is that was edited out from the original. And you can see the support there, obviously, why we've seen JP Morgan start to get a little bit more, well, not a little bit, quite a bit more active in the blockchain space, so much so that they built on Ethereum. Take a look at this clip.
So Jamie Dimon is against Bitcoin, but for blockchain?
We get that question a ton. So Onyx Digital Assets itself leverages an instance of Quorum. And Quorum is an EVM blockchain and added on a layer of permissioning and a layer of private messaging that must be met in order for the likes of JP Morgan and our clients to be able to transact on these types of networks. Live products centered around payments and centered around digital assets.
Are you working with Blackrock?
We are working with Blackrock.
All right, so you can see the point, and this is something we've talked about quite a bit on the show, is that privacy is going to be a necessity for major institutional deployment and adoption, so much so that even Vitalik went on today, here on April 14th, and kind of chimed in on this. Today, however, privacy can no longer be ignored, and this is, of course, Ethereum. AI is greatly increasing capability of centralized data collection and analysis while greatly expanding the scope of data that we have to share voluntarily. He understands that the point, being Vitalik, understanding that the requirement for privacy is growing, especially on the blockchain. I think that's the whole issue. With that being said, you got to look at what Avalanche has been doing, and they, of course, have been focused on privacy for quite some time. Here is a rollout that's actually making it easier to, so EERC 20. This is a huge update. This, of course, is going to allow the EERC to the next evolution of token standards, meaning that almost anyone would be able to create a private token and have privacy within the blockchain. That will be a big step forward. This is where they get into how easy it will work. Take a look.
This is how easy it is to create an encrypted token. The only people that can see the amount of tokens being minted is us and the auditor. Once minted, we can see that our balance is now updated. This is how others will also see our balance. It's a secure ciphertext.
All right, so you can imagine that the need for game or L1s, this is going to come from a lot of different other, whether it's retail, we start to see this in businesses, big business, outside of just RWAs and tokenized securities, but also gaming. Here, of course, is off the grid. This is utilizing the EERC 20. And again, this gets back into the privacy component. But if you think about big brands, let's say McDonald's or others, you know, they don't want other big brands knowing what they're doing. BlackRock also, in terms of institutional digital liquidity, they continue to explode here. So there is a lot going on with the potential around RWAs. And I think that, along with when you take and break down Avalanche on institutional funds, you can kind of see the breakdown here. Avalanche also growing. With all that being said, you got to look at Ethereum. This, of course, will trickle down into other related blockchains, of course, ZK Sync and also Avalanche, both growing. Then if you take a look at what's happening here on Avalanche, also on RWAs, exploding right here over the last little bit. So growth is going to continue. I think as we start to see this rollout and more institutional adoption and use case, that's where you're going to continue to see Avalanche do much better. Remember that Mantra just recently rugged. This was an RWA platform out there, very similar, I'll say, maybe kind of like an Ondo. In fact, if you look at some of the chains that, especially around RWAs, Chainlink, Avalanche, Hedera, Ondo, these are the ones that kind of have taken over in terms of the assets fleeing from something like a Mantra going over into these other potential RWAs. And I think that is something we'll probably see a lot more of. This kind of shows you the growth there. Avalanche number 2, Chainlink number 1. But right there was Mantra. So right there, enough of a growth that could flow into these top tier tokens, which could be, again, also we're seeing a little bit of a move on Avalanche today as we record this. Let's go over to Euler Labs. This, of course, is where we'll get into institutions on lending and borrowing. 100 million in deposits right now. This is, let me kind of zoom in on that for you guys so you can kind of see it. All that in just 3 days. If you compare this and the roll up here, you can kind of see Avalanche, kind of zoom in on that right there. Number 2 already. So making a little bit of a run in a period of time in which we haven't seen massive growth in the market. So a big statement, I think, here for Avalanche and where this is going to play. AvaCloud announces it's a big week for builders. We've got a multiple of L1s going live, all powered this week. So we could see Again, more surge on Avalanche, and obviously that means more revenue and more opportunity. If you look at the comparison, though, on just L1s, look at all these that are unlaunched right now, and yet we're still seeing growth, but a lot of these have not yet rolled out. If you take a look at the current C-chain gas costs, let's go over and zoom in on this section right here. So again, this is when Aetna rolled out. You can kind of see right here, this is the kind of difference that we're talking in terms of cost. It is an order of magnitude much cheaper to operate. Now this means that we could see a flow. This will be beneficial for developers. This will also be beneficial for adoption as well as institutional. Key here, very low cost to be able to transact. Other things that you got to look at is developers now moving away from ETH layer 2s to Avalanche. This began back because of Aetna. You can kind of see optimism starting to come down, Avalanche starting to move up. So there it is. That's the whole point, is devs and ideas and innovation now starting to move onto Avalanche. And I think finally, Aetna's maybe a little bit underestimated in terms of its strength and what it means to, I think, blockchain in general. Further out is AVAX is at the verge of a bullish reversal. If you look at the charts, this is again where Avalanche has been trending down. And we'll show you guys a little bit of the chart. We'll go back to that in a second. But this might be an opportunity for a breakout on Avalanche. If you look at some of the analysts and what they're saying, this is Standard Charter, they're saying Avalanche could possibly take a surge to 250 by 2029. Now he has, I know a lot of you would say, that's crazy. $250 would be ridiculous, Paul, especially if you're coming off of a $20 Avalanche right now. A couple of points that they hit on is the tariff noise. It gives us a chance to reset and pick the winners. So again, the market right now is in a bit of a reset. If you're brand new to crypto, you're actually getting a chance to come in at times when we were before the big run-up back in the fall of last year. One other point I want to hit at is this right here. Remember, this is Standard Charter, so this is one of the biggest banks out there. As a result, we see AVAX outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum in terms of relative price gains. This is basically a bank saying, we think this is the better asset. So a selection of Avalanche going into it. If you look at this chart, let me kind of zoom off of that right there, guys. This is the 2025 where they think Avalanche is going to go this year, $55. So basically you'd have 2.5x off of where we're playing right now, unless you'd been investing in the last week. By next year, $100, so that'd be a 4x. And then 2027 all the way into 2029 at 250. That's over a 10x on where we're going with Avalanche. And again, the key here is how does this rate in comparison to other assets? And I think that is the point that you guys have to look at it. All right, so back to the charts real quick. We'll take a look. And just if you look at the the growth here from that wick down. Now, granted, not everybody gets in on a purchase like that. But if you were to where we're trading just a little bit on the wick up, over 40%. So right now, nice little trend here. But if you back this out and look a little bit further, could we start to see Avalanche hit into this range right here, anywhere in the $30 range, upward? And of course, as you guys remember, the high on Avalanche, right, holding at around $60. So a lot of opportunity here, guys, for where we could be on Avalanche in a very short period of time. Let me know in the comments what you guys are doing around AVAX right now. Is this a token you are re-entering or possibly coming into the first time? Just hit some comments down below. Make sure and jump into the Diamond Circle. It's our own private group. And catch me out there on X at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.